Imagine yourself on a tropical paradise island with white sandy beaches, crystal clear waters, and a scene so perfect it almost seems unreal. Now, imagine that upon trying to return to this place, you discover it simply doesn't exist on any map, and no one can find any record of its location. This is the story of a group of tourists who experienced the unexplainable, an island that, it appears, doesn't exist to the rest of the world. What really happened out there? Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable story, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have the notification bell turned on so you don't miss any of our mystery-filled and suspenseful stories. And if you've ever experienced something unexplainable, share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. The main character in this story is Marcos, an adventure-loving tourist who, on one of his trips to the Caribbean, decided to explore a paradise island he'd heard whispers about. On a boat tour, he and a small group of other tourists followed a local guide who seemed to know exactly where this remote island lay. After hours of sailing over the open sea, they spotted a patch of land surrounded by water so transparent it revealed the ocean floor below with perfect clarity. Everyone was mesmerized by the beauty of the place, untouched by humanity. Once they arrived, Marcos and the others felt an unusual sensation, as if the air around them was different, filled with a strange energy they couldn't quite explain. The island had a mystical atmosphere, and they were excited to explore every inch of it. They walked along the fine sand, took pictures, swam, and relaxed under the palm trees. The island seemed to offer a unique experience of peace and serenity, a feeling none of them had ever experienced before. Marcos and the other tourists spent the day soaking up the location and capturing every moment. As the sun began to set, the guide called them back to the boat, warning that they needed to leave before nightfall overtook the sea. Reluctantly, everyone said goodbye to the magical place, promising themselves they'd return someday. But it was only once they were back on the mainland that they began to realize the depth of the mystery. Once they disembarked, Marcos and the others eagerly checked the photos they'd taken on the island. To everyone's shock, several of the photos were corrupted, as if a haze or distortion had somehow warped the image, or as if the island itself had started to disappear in the photos. Even the ones that seemed clear had something strange, as if something was missing. Intrigued, Marcos decided to investigate further to understand what had happened. He tried to locate the island on a map, but to his surprise, there was no mention or record of its existence. With each search, the mystery deepened. Marcos reached out to the guide who had taken them there, but the man seemed as confused as they were. He insisted he'd taken tourists to the island many times before but had never encountered anything like this. Determined to find answers, Marcos and some of the other tourists began to dig even deeper for some tangible evidence of the place. They tried to recreate the original route on the sea, but the outcome was always the same. The location where the Paradise Island should have been was nothing more than an empty stretch of ocean. For weeks, they hired other guides and even local divers, but the mysterious island had simply vanished. Some of the locals began talking about ancient legends of islands that played hide and seek, appearing to some only to vanish forever. But could this be the case? Marcos's obsession with finding the island grew by the day. He couldn't understand how such a remarkable place could simply disappear. And as if the mystery wasn't enough, some of the tourists began to report strange dreams involving the island. In their dreams, they were back on that beach, but the setting was different, dark, as if the island were alive and watching them. In each dream, they felt a growing discomfort, a sense that the island didn't want them there. Marcos began to question his sanity. Had he really been to this place, or had it all been an illusion? The photos, although strange, were the only proof the island had existed. He spent countless nights reviewing each image, trying to find clues that might clarify the enigma. However, every time he looked, he seemed to find even more questions, as if the island itself were trying to erase them from its memory. After several weeks, some of the tourists who had visited the island with Marcos began to drift away, exhausted and confused. They wanted to move on with their lives, to forget what had happened. But Marcos couldn't let it go. He needed to know the truth. In one final effort, he managed to recruit a small team of explorers willing to help him find the island again. The new expedition followed the exact same steps, departing from the original starting point. But just like before, they found nothing. With each passing day, Marcos's frustration grew. He knew he wasn't crazy. He knew what he had seen. But the ocean seemed to guard its secret as a faithful keeper, protecting the island from anyone who dared seek it. When the final expedition failed, Marcos decided it was time to give up. He returned home, still disturbed by the mystery. But something continued to haunt him. In one last attempt to make sense of it all, he decided to review the photos once again. This time, he noticed a detail he'd never seen before. In one of the images, a dark silhouette appeared to be hidden among the trees, as if something had been watching the group of tourists as they explored the island. This revelation only deepened the mystery, but Marcos decided it was best to leave this story buried in the past. Today, when someone asks Marcos about the island, he hesitates to answer. He knows few would believe his story, but deep down he always wonders, what was that island? How could it just disappear? And why did it feel like they should never have been there? And you, what do you think happened to this mysterious island? Share your theory in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Share this video with your friends, and see if anyone can uncover the mystery.